honoured guests, distinguished organisers of this magnificent conference, delegates, thank you very much. I'm honoured to have been asked to come and talk to you this morning. I'm going to give a talk which is not a paper. I'm going to actually give a very practical account of my attitude towards our future, our children, and how schools, good schools, can provide them with the love, the nurture, the opportunities, the education that they need to be fully equipped for the futures, the challenges of adult life in their future. So that's my focus, much more practical. I sincerely hope I've pitched this right, because I'm going to start with a short indulgence. The family picture from 1964, that's my father, the Christian Methodist minister, John Robert. His father was also a Methodist minister. My father passed away about 12 years ago. I strongly suspect he'll be watching his son this morning. I'm going to actually skip some of these shots, but I'll just briefly indulge myself by means of introduction. Yes, this isn't my first visit to Bhutan. I was here last September riding a mountain bike from Bhutan to this magnificent capital across 4 Himalayan passes and through Bhutanese mud for 15 hours and 45 minutes to get to the clock square, 268 kilometers, and it begs the question, why on earth would a seemingly sane, middle-aged, reasonably intelligent and happy man do something like that? Whether the answer is biological, environmental, evolutionary or psychological, I'm not sure, but certainly I think if I spent a little bit more time with some of the people in this room, I might not be forced to do things like that, though just touching on a point made by the previous speaker, perhaps my version of mindfulness is riding a mountain bike for hours on end, because I, at the end of the day, am a teacher, and it's a very stressful job. But no, I mean, to come back to it, I am now a headmaster as well as being Director of Strategic Development for the Harrow Group in Asia. I am headmaster of a school with its origins in London. That's Harrow School. Some know it as the Hill, Harrow on the Hill. A very eminent, very selective, very distinguished school educator of the great and good, the greats of old, as we call them. 450 years of history, educating, I should have said actually, it's a senior school, so only boys, only boarding, aged 13 to 18 years, and some of those alumni, of course men, went on to change the world, and some of them changed it for the better. So Churchill, Nehru, Lord Byron, Shaftesbury, King Hussein, the list goes on and on, 7 prime ministers, and it now has a campus, a school in Bangkok, in Thailand. I lead the school that's on the slide there with 4 Bhutanese students enrolled in our school, very successfully, I'm pleased to say. They've thrived, they're lively, intelligent, and fully embraced the education that we offer them. In leading a Harrow school in another Buddhist country in Southeast Asia, we face some very significant challenges in developing the right approach to education, and I draw on a lot of that past of working in socially deprived areas, working in the great outdoors, and working with adults and children over a number of years, because what we have to be very careful of is that my approach, our approach to education isn't educational colonialism, and that it's successful in drawing on the 450 years of effective educational practice from Harrow on the Hill. But I do need to be mindful of Churchill being a man of his time, a leader that Britain and Northern Europe needed when it was facing the global challenge of fascism in the 1940s, but also an imperialist who post the Second World War believed on recolonization. So he was very much a man of his time, and I need to be very careful that I'm not creating a little Britain, and that there in our school in Bangkok we are seeking to ensure that we're preparing our young people for the challenges that they'll face in the future, very different challenges of as we've already heard, and challenges that are very much contextualised to Southeast Asia. I want to talk a little bit about philosophy in practice. So I'm a very, very strong believer that students have to love their school. They have to want to come to school. They have to be passionate. They have to believe that it's fun. It's a great place to be. They have to be champing at the bit to get to school first thing in the morning. And when it's the holidays, they miss their school. And we do that very carefully by ensuring that our children are safe, first and foremost. They're nurtured, and that they have a lot of fun in learning. And gradually, they develop the attitudes that allow them to take risks. And that can be a great challenge, actually, in the culture in Thailand, strongly influenced by Taoism, Confucianism, the risk of losing face, for parents as well as children to make mistakes and learn from them. And there'll be many educators in the room who know that actually learning from your mistakes is the most powerful way to learn. That can be something that we have to educate the parents, not just the children in. But gradually, as the children mature, they develop specialisms, they really embrace the educational opportunities within the curriculum and extra to the curriculum, and they really start to thrive. The point's already been made, actually. Teachers strongly believe in planning, and it's all well and good talking about these wonderful opportunities, but this is a school in Bangkok of 1,600 students, boys and girls, 18-month-old to 18 years old. We use the joke, actually. Some of you will have heard the expression cradle to grave. We talk about cradle to shave, 18 months to 18 years, boys and girls, boarding and day students. And we need to make sure that those 1,600 students get the right opportunities. So we plan very carefully. As teachers say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So at the core of what we do is making sure, just at the bottom right-hand corner there, making sure that, as I've already said, the children are safe and happy and well-counselled and well-guided. We make sure that they're reaching their academic potential, that their learning is successful. But crucially, as I touched on in my introduction, we're very focused on recognising our responsibility of ensuring within our young people that they have the character, that they have the experiences, that they have the education, that they have the attributes to be leaders that match our motto, leaders for a better world. So we have recognised, rightly or wrongly, and actually I think they're due for a little bit of a refresher, 6 leadership attributes that we're seeking to develop in our young people. And you can read them, and I'm short of time, but I'll come back to those 6 leadership attributes in a more practical sense shortly, because we very much believe that if we channel activities and channel learning to develop those 6 attributes, then we will be successful in preparing our young people to have the right positive influence in their adult lives, way beyond university, when they're in those positions of responsibility. So I'm going to finish my talk talking about 3 examples of leadership in action, as we call this programme. So the first one, the Kontiki Rafting Challenge. So this is a Year 9 activity. Those are our students casting off onto Harrow Lake. But this isn't simply a paddle round the lake on a purchased raft. Actually, this is a programme that runs for several weeks prior to cast-off. So our young people are given bamboo, given rope for lashings and flotation barrels, and they're taught some basic life skills. For example, young people nowadays often don't know how to use knots, how to make lashings, how to tie the correct knots. They then test the flotation device, make sure the raft actually floats, and this is an extracurricular activity that goes on for several weeks before finally they cast off. And they actually live on Harrow Lake in Bangkok in 38 degrees heat with a few mosquitoes for 24 hours. And in the 24 hours they'll have 12 challenges to face, 12 tasks, most of them around personal hygiene and cooking, and it's quite a challenge. And this is a Year 9 activity which is embedded within the curriculum. All our Year 9s undergo this challenge. And if you think back to those leadership attributes of facing challenges creatively, the need to be resilient is certainly there if you're spending 24 hours out on that lake. Moving on to another example, this is a Year 10 activity that all our students undertake. So this is up in northern Thailand, a very brown sugar cane field, because if you're harvesting sugar cane in Thailand, you burn your field first, then you go into your field with a machete and you start harvesting. And you can see in the foreground there, piles of cut sugar cane being collected. In fact, what you do is you cut 13 sugar cane, and then you cut your 14th sugar cane and use that to tie the 13 canes into a bundle, and then you take those to the farmer and you deliver them to the farmer. And this is piece rate work, so you're paid for the amount of sugar cane you harvest. And just have a little guess to yourselves, no hands up, we're not in school now, how much do you think the farmer in northern Thailand in Isan pays you for 14 sugar cane? He pays you using 4 minutes. He pays you using an international currency, 3 US cents equivalent. He pays you 1 baht for the 14 sugar cane. So you go back and you start working harder, because 1 baht isn't an awful lot of money, and it's hot and you need water, and as you're harvesting your sugar cane, there's only one person to buy the water from, that's the farmer. You're a long way from 7-Eleven and the water's expensive. So you won't be surprised to hear those are our students. As I've said, it's a Year 10 activity, and they're up on that farm for 2 days and a night. And it's that ancient human tradition, isn't it, of around the campfire and the conversations that take place in the evening. So we always staff this activity with economics or business studies teachers, and there's a very interesting discussion around the not campfire that evening about business models that are unethical, about exploitation and the minimum wage. And of course, these young people, many of them, are going to go on to be captains of industry and in positions of great responsibility in their adult life. So it's a very powerful first-hand learning experience that they go through. So I've got about 3 minutes left. I'll talk about the last of these areas of activity. This is a young man very proudly holding up a Cambridge certificate. It's his KET certificate. It certifies his level of English. It's been administered by our Cambridge examiners in the school. However, he's not one of our students. He's actually the resident of, outside of Syria, the largest refugee camp in the world. It's called Mae Sot. It's on the Thai-Myanmar border, just inside Thailand. And that refugee camp is 5 kilometres by 2 kilometres, 3-metre high barbed wire, watchtowers, men with guns, and it's been there since the 1950s, over 200,000 residents. He may well be 4th generation. I think he's Karen, he may be Hmong. He's stateless. He's possibly holding the first piece of paper that's ever officially had his name on it. No social security, no passport, certainly no credit card or ATM card. He's 18 years old. He's just finished education within the camp's education system. He's matriculating. Our Cambridge certification allows him then to go into the teacher training program that allows him to go in and serve his community as a teacher. We have been involved with the Mae Sot community and actually surrounding migrant schools for 12 years, mainly a sixth form project in our school. I'll just come back to that theme, plan to fail. Fail to plan to fail. So as a teacher and a curriculum developer, we now have a curriculum to ensure that all our students take part in these activities. So I've used the term wrongly. This is not extra to the curriculum. This is core to an education provided within the school I lead. Because what we found was we had evangelists and we had dodgers. So the evangelists could not do enough of this stuff, and it actually was often at the detriment of their school grades. The dodgers never got involved in this stuff at all. So now it's an absolute requirement in our senior school to actually partake in these activities that develop our young people so that they will final picture, running out of time, be those future leaders, well prepared to be resilient, to be resourceful, to be able to collaborate, and to be able to step into those positions of responsibility in Thailand regionally, globally, and goodness knows this world needs more successful leaders. Thank you.